Welcome to 5.4 Alignment Equipment. In this chapter, we'll be discussing some of the key items inclusive of hand tools, alignment machines, and just a brief description as to um, what to expect with certain pieces of equipment and possibly procedures. So first off, let's talk about the miscellaneous tools. A variety of the hand tools, hammers, wrenches, vice grips, pry bars, air hammers, are standard tools that you would typically find in an alignment bay. Um, Most seasoned alignment technicians tend to have their go-to tools. As per curriculum expectations, I'm here to address certain tools that are required to be identified as the applicable safe use tools. When it comes to suspension and alignment, safety is key. Please be cognitive of the area that you're working on and the components that you're working with. Don't heat parts up that are not to be heated, suspension parts, i.e., brake component parts. When you are using a air hammer, use safety glasses. Safety is always trumping other service relevance. All right, so toe adjustment wrenches. We'll be talking about some air tooling, measuring tapes and rulers should always be in your service bay, and marking paint, depending on what type of equipment or procedure you're doing. Those are tools that you would readily want available in your bay. So the next one here is the basic gauge. I like this tool. I keep one in my toolbox. It's small, it's easy, it's versatile. The main purpose behind this tool is not to do a full camber or caster swing. Rather, it's used for aiding when struts are replaced, especially with the ones with the elongated holes. What you're particularly doing is setting up the camber adjustment close to zero as possible. It's got a magnetic base on it, and what you do is you attach it to the rotor or to the spindle, and you're typically aiming for a 0 degrees. This will help when you're going to do the alignment that you don't have to make a major camber swing. So, nice little tool to have, very versatile. Next item I want to talk about in one of your assignments, we'll ask a question about this item. There are different versions of this tool. This one particularly is this design. Is the steering wheel lock. Prior to doing any wheel alignment measurements or adjustments, the steering wheel needs to be locked in the zero position. In other words, it can't be tilted high left or high right. Now, I do want you to make a note of one thing. For those of you that have never done an alignment, the experience of centering your steering, we want to do it with the engine running. And we want to unload the steering hydraulic sides of pressure. In other words, um, if you wiggle the steering wheel left to right, you're going to loosen up the hydraulic assist on in both directions, especially with rack and pinion vehicles. This will allow for any imbalance in fluid, that the tendency when you lower the vehicle back down that the steering will want to walk high left or high right. All right, so this steering wheel lock device, once it's centered in the up position, the vehicle in the up position, um, you are then locking the steering wheel to the floor or to the pedal using its clamping device. All right, so it's a basic anchoring component. This gauge here is, again, most shops may not even have this anymore. If you're working in a specialty alignment shop, this tool is a great, great go-to tool. It was the tool of choice, the only tool to perform any kind of wheel alignments. It's basically a magnetic base. You can have the option to attach it to the rim itself to compensate for wheel runout parameters. The gauge is a caster camber gauge. It was the only tool used for decades. Some street rodders, DIYs, small shops, even alignment shops that I know of are still using this tool to doing very unique, particular jobs. Good application for cube vans, heavy duty units where you're not able to put the truck on the rack itself, so it can be done on the plates on the floor, and you'll typically have 1 gauge or 2 gauge max, so you'll have to switch from side to side to do the camber reading. Air jacks for strut alignment. Again, this whole strut thing, it becomes a challenge, and the more you deal with them, the more you'll see. Um, This was first introduced with the towing companies. They come in, CA comes over, they want to unlock your vehicle. They will wedge this between your door and your B pillar or A pillar to allow for a air assist to open the door, enough to get a spool in there to unlock your doors. In the application of steering and suspension, we use it to put it in between the body of the car and the strut when we're performing a camber adjustment. As you will see when you do these, a lot of these vehicles are easy. They use a cam bolt or a washer to centricate the over center to adjust for camber. But some are just elongated holes with a bolt through it. You loosen the bolt off, the weight of the car, it's very hard to adjust this camber. So we pump it up and we angle the strut where we want it to do based on air pressure. Nice little tool to have. So the specific tool for toe adjustment in retrospect to vehicles that have inner and outer tie rod spline adjustments or a adjustable sleeve, there's a recommended tool for use. We're using this tool to adjust the inward and outward toe by rotating the tie rods. We don't want to use tie rod or vice grips to do this, even though most techs will run along the ribbed part here and to use a vice grip. Avoid doing that when need being. A good assortment of these tools you will usually cover most of your applications. The tow bar, another interesting tool that I want to introduce. Again, this is alignment shop specific. It was the go-to tool for tow settings. Still a very reliable tool, still used in some medium duty, heavy duty applications. The the idea is to measure the distance between the two front tires between the front and the rear of the tires using pointer scribes that slide across this barb adjustable. You are scribing a chalk line or white paint straight line into the tire, and then you're running a scratch line with this little device right here. So you basically got the vehicle up, you spray the tire down with the marking paint, you spin the tire, you use the scriber to run a sharp scribe, and then you're using the tow bar to measure from one point of the tire to the other, and then going on the back side, and that difference is total tow divided amongst both tires, and that's how we set our tow on some of these vehicles. Older vehicles were specific, hot rods, DIYs, heavy duty, medium duty applications. Nice little tool to be aware of. So used on vintage cars was the one-time tool to go to for adjusting tow. Still used today, also used on heavy truck applications. Does not require a rack, but suggested. It's just for ease of access to perform the tow adjustments. Next thing we want to talk about is the alignment station. The alignment station itself, cleanliness is very important. You'll see that, and you will find that working environments where technicians are assigned to steering and suspension only techs are very picky and fussy about their alignment bays, where the tools are, what they have available to them. They get used to their equipment. Again, this unit is not equipment training. It is to familiarize yourself with some of the pieces that go along with it. So an alignment rack like this example, you could see it's got the two ramps. Bear in mind your limitations will be with commercial vehicles, dual wheel vehicles. The length is very important as to what you can put on this. Most alignment racks will come with a center jack. The center jack will run front and back, and this will allow for you to pick up two wheels, front or rear, at a time. Be very cautious with the some machines like this one will require you to roll the vehicle forward and backward to do an alignment measurement. Be careful that we won't overrun the alignment rack, nor do we go backwards. Some locking blocks are essential for when you're doing this procedure. It's highly recommended. So be familiar with the equipment. See what's available to you. Understand the equipment, understand its weight restrictions, understand what the machine needs to have and clearances. For example, if this was a four-post vehicle alignment lift, these type of laser heads are very prudent to having clear visible lines. This unit may not work on all of these racks. The alignment machine and the hoist of choice tentatively don't always get purchased at the same time. More modern shops will have this. Now, one thing I do want to make in mind, that these racks now are being put in the ground. Most up-to-date drive-through systems at dealerships will have the alignment rack with the laser heads, but no lift, just for measurement only as a drive-through. Amazing idea. So keep the area clean. Some assortment of hand tools close by. Safety is a priority. Different alignment equipment requires different setups, so be familiar with your equipment. Another example of a laser alignment machine. Turn plates. Turn plates are typically used on the front wheels. They are designed to move vertically as well as horizontally. They are locked down by the two pins. So when you first set your vehicle up on this turn plate, the plate is in the locked position. You're using your slide jacks, lifting the vehicle up, and then removing the pins so that when the weight of the vehicle bears down on the turning plates, the wheel that contacts in the center of this turn plate was allowed to move freely in either direction. There's typically one turn plate per side on the front wheels. On the side here, we have a scale. This is for the caster swing. Some machines will display it on the actual screen itself. And other methods, like using the bubble gauge or other inspection methods, will require you to reference the actual scale from 0 to, I believe it's 40 degrees swings on the gauge itself. So cleanliness is very important with these devices as well. On the rears, we will use what's called slip plates. Note that we don't have any turning swing gauges on it. We still have lock pins. This will allow for vehicle wheels to lay flat on here and allow for flexibility horizontally and vertically as well for the rear. You've got to keep in mind when we pick that vehicle up to preset it and then we bring it back down, we want to be able to relax the suspension as much as possible to the real world road application. Every time we pick a vehicle up and bring it back down, bushings, suspension parts, ball joints, they tend to wind up as their maximum stroke. So as we bring the vehicle back down on its weight, we want to be able to allow it to flex and relax, doing so with flex plates and slip plates and turn plates. So if you have any questions, please email me. This is a short unit to just familiarize yourself. Typically, you would have a practical lab to actually perform an alignment. Being that we're trying to make connections between the practical and the awareness of equipment. So please read your textbook, read over some of this PowerPoint presentation, and again, please reach out to me anytime if you would like any clarity going forward. Thanks for your time.